This is a trade show. We're here at NBAA BACE here in Orlando. Companies have come from all over the world to be here today to sell and be sold. Some of these companies are going to do very well in the next few days, and others are going to leave disappointed. And we're going to explore what it takes to make a trade show successful. Hi, I'm Bryan Del Monte. I'm the president of the Aviation Agency. Let's go walk the show. As I walk the show today, we're going to talk about two booth sizes, okay? Big booth, small booth. And actually the strategy for both is the same, just the extent to which you're able to execute is going to change, okay? Now, one booth that I really liked that I thought was really impressive was by Gogo Inflight, okay? They have this huge booth. They have this amazing video display, and they have it set up so that they're organized in such a way that it's almost impossible as you walk by not to at least, do something like this and look up and take note of what they're trying to do. Okay, that's strategy one, which is you have to grab their attention. Strategy two, and this is the difference between, in my opinion, booths that are successful at any size versus booths that aren't, they're only trying to tell me one thing at Gogo's booth. They're not trying to tell me 30 things. They're not trying to tell me everything that they do. They're trying to tell me the one thing that they think is most important for their message. But you may say, okay, well, they're in-flight, Gogo Inflight, and they've got this huge booth, and it's a huge booth. It's probably a mid six-figure buy. But let's say you only have a 10 by 10 booth. Let me tell you how an effective 10 by 10 booth looks. Again, you're only trying to tell me one thing, the main thing of who you are and what you do. Is your booth backlit? Is your booth visually entertaining and stimulating? If it is, you can get people to stop, even if all you have is a 10 by 10 background. And we've done that successfully for our clients, and some of our clients that are here at the show, they get a lot of floor traffic as a result of having just a simple background with a core key message that is properly lit, warm, and inviting. When you're doing your booth design, basically two things. You got to get them to stop and take notice, and you got to give them a reason to walk in. So when we first started this agency, we had some learning to do. And one of the things that we learned was just how much money companies in aviation and aerospace spend at trade shows. From our prior history, where companies spent most of their money was, quite frankly, making television commercials. For this industry, the vast majority of the money is spent at trade shows. When you think about how much money you're spending, the way that I think about those budgets is not so much the total dollar amount, because, for example, a Super Bowl ad, everybody would consider that to be like as top as what it gets, right, at a Super Bowl ad in terms of how much money and technique and craft and all of that. Well, believe it or not, a Super Bowl ad costs less on the margin than running Google AdWords, because you're trying to reach a humongous audience. What's essentially the CPM, the cost per thousand? Trade shows are by far the most expensive endeavor that the vast majority of you engage in. And so when we talk with people, they're like, oh, this show didn't go good, that show didn't go good, etc. If you're going to put all this money and effort into these shows, you have to have a show strategy, okay? And your strategy can't be, we're going to the show, we're setting up our booth, we're going to have our sales guys there and hope for the best, okay? That is by far the most expensive strategy that I've seen, which is what the vast majority of you do. If you're going to use trade shows as this lion's share of your budget, this is where you have to make your presence felt as much as you can. You have one goal coming to a trade show: to be remembered. So I'm going to give you some examples about things we've seen that are good and some things that aren't so good here at the trade show. Why do I like Gogo Inflight's booth? Okay, why do I like what they're doing? And I think they're doing a really good job. They've got a couple of things that work in their favor. First, they've got one message. They're here to evangelize internet access on business aviation jets. That's why they're here. That's why they're at NBAA. They have a good focus, they have a good strategy, they have a good message. Secondly, they got a reason for me to stop, and they've organized their booth and their salespeople in such a way as to draw people into the booth and reinforce the overall message. So there are other companies here at the show that are bigger. They have bigger booths, they have bigger budgets. They're not executing these techniques as well. They're relying on their size and their, what we would call in our business, the media weight, to basically propel them through. They have busy booths with complicated ideas. You can't figure out who they are. You can't figure out what their point of being here is. They're very transactional in their approach, right? They're like, come in so we can sell, blah, blah, blah. And that's an effective strategy when you're as big as they are. But Gogo's strategy is actually better in many ways because they're achieving a much greater penetration without spending as much. So from our perspective, that makes it more effective. Okay. Another one who's really good at the show, okay, and it's a very big booth, is Cirrus. Cirrus has their SF-50 aircraft here, right? It's an amazing new kind of idea aircraft that they've been selling for a while. They've got a beautiful, pristine aircraft parked. You walk by that booth, there's no illusion about what it's about, why you're here, why they're here, how they fit into the discussion, and that they're a leader in the field. Now, you may be saying, okay, I'm not that. I don't have that budget. I don't have that type of space. You can still do that by where your booth is placed, what you do, and the story you tell. All right. And let's talk about that for a minute, because the last person I want to talk about is a client of ours, Aviation Manuals. This is a company that essentially sells a esoteric, in the cloud, in your mind activity in terms of safety and compliance. They sell predominantly software tools. In order to tell their story to the guy walking by, we made a video with them to tell that story, to get the guy to stop, to tell him one thing, which is safety's in the small stuff. This is why you need to use these tools. Most of the companies that we've seen at this show, they need some sort of story like that. They need some sort of quick way. And we're talking, imagine in terms of like strategy, we're talking like a billboard. You have 8 words or 6 words. What are those 6 words going to be to tell your story? In our industry, we talk about, it's the 6-word story by Hemingway. Baby shoes, for sale, never worn. You can create an entire context and story around that right away. What are your 6 words going to be? What's your booth about? How are you going to draw them in? These are the questions you have to answer, not how big of a booth are we going to get or where we're going to book our hotel. There you have it. To be successful at a trade show, you need to have a plan of attack and execute the plan. But most of all, be remembered. Sometimes that means having the biggest booth. Sometimes it means being the most fun guys at the show. Sometimes it means making the most connections. Either way, you have to go big as you can go.